Well, I was born in Vienna, and I had an older brother and cousins, and very large family, and life was really very beautiful. I was a sporty child, so Austria was very suitable for that. We went skiing in the winter and swimming in the lakes in the summer and mountaineering, and it was good. Well, when I came into Austria, then suddenly life changed really from one day to the next. And my brother, he came home from school and his clothes were torn and he was full of blood. And he told my parents that his own friends did this, beat him up in the playground, and the teachers just watched it happening. Yes, I have the tattoo. Only in Auschwitz did the tattoo people. Of all the many camps, Auschwitz was the only one. There's the tattoo people, yeah. And no, I'm actually, well, I wouldn't say I'm that pleased about it, but in case somebody, because there are unfortunately still Holocaust deniers, and they say, do you think I really did this number by myself? Typical day was you had to get up when it was still dark, very, very early, and then there was a roll call. All the people had to stand for 2 hours, and the couples were walking around, and if you moved you were beaten, so you had to really stand stock still, which is not easy for 2 hours. And in the winter, 5 o'clock in the morning, it was dark and freezing cold. In the summer it was very hot to stand outside. We had shaved heads, and when it was all counted, the whole camp, if the number was wrong, which it was very often because many people had died overnight and didn't come out. So then they had to recount, and they had to look in the barracks where the dead people were, how many. So you had to stand for 4 hours very often. And then you got your breakfast, which was a little mug of some liquid. And then you were taken to work, usually very heavy physical work, like digging trenches or even repairing barracks ladder, or cleaning the latrines, the toilets, which was most horrible job. And no break, no lunch break, no toilet break. And then you got your supper, which was a chunk of bread. And the trouble was that in the daytime you didn't get any food. So very often people wanted to keep half of it for the daytime. But you had nowhere to keep anything. The barrack, there was nothing. So the only place was to sleep on it. But we slept like spoons,
Yeah.
8 in a row. And so if one turned, we all had to turn. And it happened not in the beginning, but a little later, perhaps after a month or so. The bread, you couldn't sleep, you fell off, you moved your head and the bread fell next to it. The person who was next to you ate it up.
Were you with other children?
No.
No.
I was actually, on our transport, there were about 265 kids, 6 survived. At arrival there was a selection, and all children and older people went straight to the big gas chambers. When we were arrested, we were in the same prison, and then we kind of made friends with one woman. She was about the age between my mother and me, so perhaps 30, 28, something like that. Nini was her name, and we got very friendly with her, and she was sleeping with us in the same bunk. And she survived as well, and we've been friends ever as long as they were alive.
Oh, wow.
But in general, you didn't make friends.
Yeah.
People were really just on their own. One day when I was working somewhere, I saw across the barbed wire my father. Well, that made me very happy, because I hadn't known if he was selected.
How long in was this?
That was rather perhaps after a month. So that was very good. And of course he told me as well that my brother was still alive. Well, it was not, it wasn't as if you were free and you go home again. That was now, you know, on the 27th of January, the Russian army came by in fighting the Nazis, so that we're not kind of as if we were free from then on, and we didn't know what they were going to do with us. If they would have left us there, that would have been very, very bad. But I must say they were very, very helpful, fed us, they gave us even Russian uniforms and kept us out of danger. But we didn't know, and then we still didn't know how do we get from Russia back to the West. So, you know, it was not as if this is the end of our suffering. We moved to Amsterdam in February 1940. We lived in apartments, and there were no gardens for children to play. And so one day she realized there was a new child around there. She came, introduced herself, said she's Anne Frank. Didn't mean anything at the time, you know, it was just another girl. And he always was gossiping with girls, and as well already a flirt with 11. When I told her that I had an older brother, she said, when can I come to your apartment? The Nazis who planned what is the cheapest, quickest way to kill all the Jews. Because at first in Poland they used one soldier, one bullet, and shot people individual. And they realized that 6 million people, it's too expensive. And as well, to let soldiers do that is hard as well for them, so they didn't want to do it that way. So they came up with gassing. So those, I think, there were about 20 of those Nazis, were definitely evil people. So for those I would never ever have a forgiveness or understanding. Yes, I definitely lost my faith, because the only thing that you could do in Auschwitz was to pray to God to stop this. If God is there, why did he not interfere and stop it? He could have if he's almighty, but he didn't. So my alternative was, there is no God. So I came out of the camp definitely an atheist, but, which was perhaps even worse, as well, I didn't believe in humanity, because when you saw what those Germans, educated, ordinary, even young people, 20, 22, the young SS people, you know, how cruel they were. What are we then? You know, we are monsters if we were able to do things like that to other human beings who have not done anything to them. So I lost not only my faith, but the belief in humanity. And that was tough, because I really was full of hatred and didn't trust anybody and was embarrassed about the world, and was really, that's why I had so much hatred. So it was really I was more depressed after the war than, and when I heard that my father and brother had made it, never be a family again, I became terribly depressed, which I wasn't in the camp, because in the camp I had to keep all my strength and willpower to stay alive. But afterwards there was no reason to stay alive. I think I really wanted children very badly, but nothing happened after I got married. And then, you know, in the camp you got the liquid, I told you get some liquid, they said there was bromide in it, which makes you stop, you have no monthly menstruation. But then when I wanted to have children, things were obvious. Then after a couple of years they sent me to the hospital and did all kinds of tests, and obviously there was something lacking, and I was on different treatments, and bang, I was pregnant. And
And
that was, of course, the birth of my first daughter was really something very, very special for me. Well, I think the minority groups can't do much. It is the majority has to become sensible and accept everybody. We have to be more tolerant for people who of different races, because there's actually only one race, the human race. I personally am very proud. I'm not a religious Jew, but I'm very proud to be a Jew, because we, for us, education is very important, and through this we can achieve a lot.
mhm.